Did you hear about the narcissist who walked into a bar? He ordered everyone a round of mirrors so they could all see what he sees in himself. Now that's a good laugh. But let's get serious for a moment. Narcissism, folks, isn't just a punchline. It's a real personality trait. And when it's excessive, it can cause real problems, especially in relationships. Imagine being in a relationship with someone who's excessively self-centered, who thinks they're superior to everyone else, who lacks empathy, and who manipulates others to get what they want. It sounds tough, doesn't it? Well, that's the everyday reality for people who are in a relationship with a narcissist. And here's the kicker. Narcissism isn't just a man thing. Yes, you heard it right. Women can be narcissists too. So, buckle up as we dive into the 5 signs your wife could be a narcissist. And no, it's not just about her taking too many selfies. First off, does your wife believe that the sun rises and sets on her command? Does she expect you to drop everything for her needs? Now let's dive into the first sign of narcissism, which is a self-centered attitude. Picture this, you're engrossed in a gripping thriller, but she walks in, expecting you to switch the channel to her favorite reality show, without a second thought. Or maybe, you're on a tight deadline at work, but she insists on you taking her shopping for the perfect pair of shoes she spotted online. It's all about her, all the time. She craves constant attention, almost like a toddler tugging at your pants leg. Remember, she's not the sun, and your world certainly does not need to revolve around her. This self-centeredness, this expectation of undivided attention, is our first clue. If her world spins solely around her, you might be living with a narcissist. But let's not jump to conclusions just yet, there's more. Secondly, does your wife seem to have an empathy switch that's permanently set to off? Now, we're not talking about the occasional selfish moment. No, we're talking about a consistent inability to understand or share the feelings of others. Imagine you've just had a rough day and you're looking for a shoulder to lean on. But instead of offering comfort, she just shrugs and turns the conversation back to her. Not exactly the warm and fuzzy response you were hoping for, right? This is because narcissists often struggle to put themselves in other people's shoes. They're so wrapped up in their own world that they can't comprehend the thought of someone else's pain or joy. It's like they're emotionally colorblind, only seeing their own hues and tones. If she can't feel for others, she might be a narcissist, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, there are more signs to consider. Moving on to signs 3 and 4, does your wife have a knack for manipulation and a superiority complex larger than her shoe collection? Manipulation, ladies and gentlemen, is the 3rd sign of a narcissist. It's like a magic trick that narcissists have up their sleeve. They'll twist and turn every situation to suit their narrative. Picture this, you're planning a weekend getaway, you've booked the hotel, planned the itinerary, but at the last minute she wants to cancel because she's just not feeling it. And somehow it's your fault for not considering her feelings. Sounds familiar? That's manipulation at its finest. Now, on to the 4th sign, the superiority complex. If your wife's ego is as high as the Empire State Building, then you might have a problem. Does she often talk down to you or others? Does she believe she's always right no matter what? Does she consider herself too good for certain things or people? If you're nodding along, then you're dealing with a superiority complex. Let's illustrate with an example. You're at a dinner party and someone compliments her on her outfit. Instead of a simple thank you, she goes on a 10-minute monologue about how she only wears designer clothes and how ordinary clothes just don't suit her. If she's constantly looking down on others and placing herself on a pedestal, that's a clear sign of a superiority complex. Now, these signs alone don't necessarily mean you're married to a narcissist. Everyone can have moments of manipulation or superiority, but if these behaviors are consistent and causing distress in your relationship, it's time to take a step back and evaluate. Remember, narcissism isn't just about having a big ego or being self-centered, it's a pattern of behavior that lacks empathy, seeks to manipulate others, and holds a grandiose sense of self-importance. If she's constantly manipulating situations and feels superior to everyone else, you might be living with a narcissist. But remember, we've got one more sign to go. Last but not least, does your wife have a black belt in the blame game? Is it always someone else's fault? This is the 5th sign of narcissism we're discussing today, the inability to accept responsibility for mistakes or shortcomings. It's like she's playing a never-ending game of hot potato, always tossing the blame onto someone else. So, let's say she forgets to pay the electricity bill and you're sitting in the dark. Does she say, "My bad, I forgot"? Or does she blame the electric company, the mailman, or even you for not reminding her? It's almost as if admitting fault would shatter her world, so she dodges responsibility like a pro dodgeball player. The buck never stops with a narcissist. It's always in transit, always someone else's problem. And it's not just about the big things, it can be about anything from a misplaced remote to a global pandemic. If she's always passing the buck, you might just be married to a narcissist. But remember, these are just signs. If you're concerned, it's always best to seek professional advice. So, there you have it, folks. The 5 signs your wife might be a narcissist. Let's quickly recap. The world revolving around her, lack of empathy, manipulation, superiority complex, and the blame game. Remember, these are just potential indicators, not definitive proof. If you are genuinely concerned, seeking professional help is always a good move. Remember, it's not about the number of selfies she takes, it's about how she treats you and others. Stay tuned for our next video where we discuss how to deal with a narcissistic partner. Until then, keep your mirrors clean and your hearts open.